The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, the perfect place for a pre-match pint.
There's a chance here, a great save. A turner from McClare. Might come. A terrific goal by Keiran.
Brentford against Joost. Get hit.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble saving.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm James. Now, we've got no Lord Hillsborough tonight. He's not around. But Dickie Owl, no, he's not around either. Vic, no, she's not around. Eddie, I'm not even sure I remember who he is. He's not here either. But I tell you what, we have got Dan Fudge.
Yes. Dabs, scrap, pam. Various urban noises. What about that?
Hey,
All right.
very good. Now, this is kind of, geeky podcast talk, but you've got a new microphone and you sound good.
I sound sexy, don't I? I sound sexy.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I think, is this your first appearance of the season?
I think it's my second. I think I did the pre-season one, and then that's me being out, new jobs and all that.
You're a bit like Alman Abdi, aren't you?
I am literally just like Alban Abdi. I come in for a little bit of a wave, go, all right, kids, still here. I'm not that crap, and then it goes again.
We could call you Almond Fudge, but that does sound like some kind of special treat for children or something.
Sounds like a breakfast
cereal. Well, today I'm going to let you have an almond fudge.
Yeah, sounds like something that your nan will let you have.
Right, let's talk about some football. 2 games for us to reflect on, and a week ago sat here and said 2 games coming up, Forest at home, Brentford at home. All that really matters is that we get 6 points. However, performance will be nice as well. Well, I'll tell you what, Forest particularly, well, we got both, didn't we? 3 points against Forest, and a damn good performance to boot. Did you see much of the game?
I did. I've been watching all the games on iFollow, which is an absolute disgrace of an outlet. But it gives us expats an opportunity to carry on with what's going off. But I was genuinely really happy with the performance, and I don't know if you guys have covered it before, but have you ever heard of the Ewing theory?
Ewing theory?
The Ewing theory. There was people who played NBA Jam back in the day will remember a player for New York called Patrick Ewing, and there was a theory that when Ewing wasn't there, with the exception of him being an absolute world class player, with him not being there, New York and the other team he played for, I can't remember who it was. They were better without him, even though he was a world-class player. Does that make sense?
Right, yep.
So without Forestieri, and it could be said without Hutch as well to some extent, are we victims of the Ewing theory? What do you reckon?
So you're suggesting that we actually play better without some of the players that we think are pivotal?
Yes.
It's not that long ago, is it, that during the summer we did our 2-man podcast where we both kind of said that maybe it's time for Forestieri to move on.
Sold him on.
Maybe we would actually be a better team without him. And I know there'll be people that disagree venomously with that, and that will insist that he's our best player, and therefore, if he's fit, he should be playing. But the Forest game felt like, for the first time, we realised the sum mass of the talent that we have within our team. It felt like everyone performed, and it was a team performance. There were no individuals that really stood out. Reach had a good game, Bannon had a good game, Fletcher had a good game, Hooper had a good game, Joost had a good game, although we subsequently learned that's not how you pronounce his name, which is a bit of a gutter, really. Joost had a good game. So it's Joost, isn't it?
Joost was a game I used to have for the Atari 2600 back in 1987. You flew around on Griffins playing tennis or something.
There we go, on-brand reference right there. There were individuals that did kind of particularly play well, but the whole team played well together. And when Forest equalised, it was a bit gutting because we'd played well. It's not to say that Forest played terribly. I thought that they were all right. But, when Forest equalised, rather than heads going down, we kept going and we kept working and we kept doing what we've been doing all game long. And we got exactly what we deserved. We got, in the end, you would class it as being a fairly comfortable win. We certainly deserved it. But, I mean, in terms of performance, it was spot on, really, and everyone works really hard for each other. So, to kind of work that back to your question, if now we've maybe found an 11 that do all work well together, and there's no one of them that particularly shines above anyone else, and they work hard for each other, that's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Well, definitely. I mean, the biggest question I threw out, I mean, a lot of people, and this will have been discussed across pubs across South Yorkshire for the last week, maybe even last few months, about Forestieri. My biggest concern is, and I know I've not been his biggest fan since we've signed him because I find him an average player, but Dave Jones sat in that midfield very well against Brentford, and he's done very well. Now, obviously, we've had the return of Keiran Lee, which is, well, for me, the best thing that's happened to Sheffield Wednesday in recent times. Where does Hutch come in to that team as it's playing right now? Is there an element of the Ewing theory in that, or what could now be called the Forestieri theory?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I've actually been in kind of 2 or 3 separate kind of ongoing threads on Twitter today, kind of talking about this very subject, because we know that Hutch is getting close to fitness again. And I think it was Lord H actually that put the question on Twitter. It's a shame he's not here to kind of talk about the replies that he got. But
he'll probably drop in George Hurst with it as well, though. You know what he's like.
Yeah. Oh, probably. But yeah, I mean, he asked the question of as and when Hutch is fit, does he come back into the team, or has Dave Jones been performing well enough to keep him out? Now, Dave Jones is one of those players, and we've had a few of these players over the years that really divides opinion. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he does a very solid job. I think he does. He's one of those players that does a lot of the messy stuff without really getting noticed. His positioning is pretty good. He breaks up play pretty well. But he's got that potential to maybe turn backwards and play a negative ball. And he's got the odd little slip in him, the odd little mistake in him. And that means that there's an element of the crowd, and the guys that sit behind me on the North Stand are prime examples of this, who think he's absolute bobbins, that think he's one of the worst signings that we've ever made. And as they put it, when they were I think they were talking about whether or not they would bring Hutch in if he was back. They'd say, well, I'd rather play no one than play Dave Jones. That's how bad they think he is.
Ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous, actually. And I did start quite loudly ridiculing stuff that they were saying. I don't know whether they heard it or not, but that's
Did you scoff in a very middle-class way?
I did, and every time David Jones did something good, I was like, bravo, David Jones, great game, David Jones, well done.
Yes,
and I think they just ignored me there. But I think he's been having a real solid time. The thing is, at the moment, we're playing well and we're winning games. And on Tuesday night, me and my mate were in the pub quite early, and we were talking about what the team should be. And we were like, well, look, that old, even though Carlos isn't the kind of person that has a fixed, his ideal 11, he's never going to be that kind of coach. But don't change a winning team. It's a very old theory in football, but it's dead true. If you've just turned in a really good performance against Forest and you've won the game, and you've won the game pretty well, is there any real reason to change it? And we thought, maybe what he might change is take Keiran Lee out because he's only just come back in, and whether or not he's going to be capable of playing 3 games inside 7 days. Would you rather keep him so he's fit against Cardiff than play him against Brentford? And as it was, he did exactly the right thing and kept exactly the same team. Let's worry about Cardiff when we get to Cardiff. Tuesday night was about going out and getting the 3 points against Brentford, and he did the right thing. He kept the same team, and as and when Hutch comes back in, I'm not sure there's any reason right now as to why David Jones should go out of the team, because he's performing well enough and he's contributing to a team that's winning. And it's a team game. It's a team game. And yeah, David Jones might do the odd thing that isn't perfect, but he is part of this machine that is 11 people. And they are winning games right now.
That's right.
And you right now, you'd have to be very certain about something to want to change that. You'd have to be absolutely certain that it's the right thing to do to take someone out and put someone else in. You'd have to really justify it to yourself, I think. If I was Carlos, I'd have to think long and hard. If I was thinking, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Keiran Lee out and play Butterfield, then I'd have to really convince myself that was the right thing to do, because there is no reason to change that team right now. It's winning games, and it's winning games well.
Let's not forget either that Forest, to go back to the initial point about Nottingham Forest, is that I thought they'd started great. I was actually concerned about this game. It could have gone either way for me, and they did have more of the ball than we did. But for some reason, we were reining a lot more shots in. Now, was that down to Lee in midfield, or was that down to, just the way we'd got the wings right? That sort of thing. Whatever it was, it just went well. Everything dropped into where it should have done. For me, I think that the partnership with Hooper and Fletcher really is working out. I think that Ross Wallace is one of the most unsung heroes we've got in the squad. Because we'd signed Boyd, I think everybody kind of forgot about Ross. And I think he's brilliant. I think he adds something that a winger does to the team, does for a team. I think he does it very well. And like I touched on, Hooper and Fletcher moving around for each other is an absolute joy to watch, especially when they've got Keiran Lee behind them. For me, I think it's mouth-watering sometimes, the way Lee and Hooper specifically, the way they drag and move and draw players out without even, just by doing something really clever. I think you can't teach that. I think that's instinct that you learn as a kid and something like that. However, as it stands now, Forest, who let's say a threat to us breaking into the playoffs, if that's what we were settling for. I don't think it is, but let's say it was further on in the season. I think that could be a really, really valuable 3 points, given the way Forest started. But as a result now, they've lost 3 in their last 4. So, soz trees, we're smashing them up.
Well, I found it dead interesting, because obviously Forest were... I don't look at league tables before Christmas, but I was told by several people that Forest were in the top 6 as we went into that game, and that they'd made a particularly strong start to the season, and they did look all right. They looked pretty decent. There were times where I was a bit worried, because particularly on the counter attack, they moved really fast. They got the ball from one end of the pitch to the other at some speed, and I think they did cause us some problems. I think this is where we bring ourselves on to our back four and the way that they played, and particularly the way we've got to mention Van Aken and the way that he played for his debut on TV in front of a decent attendance at Hillsborough. What an introduction to Championship football! How accomplished does this guy look? Not just in terms of his defending, but when he's on the ball, and also his distribution. The way that he can pick out a pass. I mean, it's absolutely... He was superb. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And the thing is that, Forest came at us, and actually, was I concerned that they were going to score every time they came forward? No, because after a while, I started to realise that centre-back pairing, that's going to work. Tom Lees and Van Aken, that's going to work. And as time went on, I realised that, we looked like we used to at the back. We looked solid at the back. We, one kind of, daft bit of defending during the first half that cost us a goal, and it was actually a decent move from Forest. It was a bit unlucky, really, that Van Aken just went in a little bit too early, and it results in a goal. It was no one's fault, but other than that, I thought we looked pretty solid and pretty good, and that's brilliant. I think that's the first time this season that I've actually felt quite confident defensively that we look sound.
Didn't we discuss this at length a few times last season, and probably the season before, the amount of teams that come at us and play their game? When teams sit and defend, we struggle unpicking them. But when teams come and play their own game and do what they do, we smash them. Like it's happened with Forest now. They didn't come and sit, did they? They didn't come to go, we'll just frustrate them. Norwich last year, Fulham always play their game, and we end up being able to weather it well, and we're able to break a lot very quickly. Maybe it's got an element of that, because tactically I don't believe we've actually changed very much from last year. I find Carlos very, I think arrogant is the word. It's like, this is the way we play. This is how we're going to do it. Deal with it. I don't believe there's a plan B for us to go to. Now, plan A, or the plan, as it is, because I don't think there's a B, is to play the very patient build-up, patient start, and this is the way we do it. And it very much depends on how the other team's set up, whether we're successful or not. Would you agree with that, or...?
Possibly. I think I'm going to give Carlos some credit here because I think that this season's the first time that we've played with kind of the diamond midfield. We only seem to do it at home, but that's 2 games now that we've kind of gone down that or maybe 3 games now where we've gone down the route of playing that diamond formation, and it seems to really suit us and seems to really work. And it was interesting, a few minutes ago you were talking about, was it Keiran Lee coming back in that made the difference? And I think it is, and that's not just because of Keiran Lee doing what Keiran Lee does, but it's because Keiran Lee doing what he does allows Bannon to do what he does better than he does playing alongside someone else, which allows David Jones to do what he does better, and then when David Jones does what he does better, that allows Bannon to do what he does even better than he can do it when he's got Keiran Lee next to him. And Wallace then also on that side, who I thought links up really well with Jack Hunt, probably in both games, to be fair, this week, that they've played really well together. And I am guilty of being one of those people that's just wondered whether or not Wallace has pretty much kind of gone now, because I think that he'd had 3 or 4 games where he'd been bang average leading up to this week. But, he was another one that really shone. And it was the combination, I think, that's been correct this week. And part of that is getting the formation right. And it's a small tweak, but playing a diamond midfield rather than playing a relatively flat midfield has been what's made the difference. And, Carlos is very much a 4-4-2 manager, and we know that, but there's still kind of quirks and little tweaks within a 4-4-2 formation that really can make the difference. And I think he's got it right this week. He's got it right. What about we've sort of crossed across 2 games there, haven't we? But thinking specifically then about the Brentford game, because this was a different game of football. And I to be honest, going into the week, I'd have said Forest will be the more difficult game. Yeah. Now I've got quite a few mates that are Brentford fans from going down there and being involved in their podcast a little bit and stuff like that. Particularly Billy, who I think is known to quite a few Wednesday fans. He was on the football on 5 last week. Anyone that saw that will have seen him giving his reaction after the Brentford game. And he said, and he actually showed me he sent me a table that Brentford are the team that have had the most shots in the Championship this season, but I think they've actually scored like the lowest number of goals or thereabouts.
So they're misfiring, as it were. Would you?
They're misfiring. Well, they've had quite a few on target. I think actually what's happening is that they're just suffering at the moment from extremely bad luck. And first half against Brentford, we really saw that. And I was actually, from being quite confident a few days before, I got more and more worried the closer we got to that game, because the more I heard from Billy and his mates about just how well they'd been playing and how unlucky they'd been. They played Villa off the park at the weekend and lost the game. And I just started to wonder whether or not, a bit like last season when Brentford came here and did us over when we expected to win that game, and it was a hard defeat to take, I just wondered whether or not this has got kind of banana skin written all over it. And particularly first half, I thought that Brentford really came at us, and we struggled a bit first half. I think that defensively we didn't really know what to do to contain them. We sort of did to an extent. I mean, they obviously scored a goal, but it wasn't the cleanest goal in the world. There's certainly, I don't think, any fingers pointed at Keiran Westwood. I actually think he had a decent shout in terms of the offside thing about the player that was blocking his view. But it was given as a goal. No one's going to blame Keiran Westwood for that, and that's fair enough. But other than that, I kind of thought that we weathered the storm to a decent extent. But every time Brentford came forward, I thought they could score here. Yeah,
to some extent, I agree with their manager's comments. I think he said something along the lines of, "We should have walked off this pitch 3-0 up in the first half, and we were a little unlucky." Yada yada yada. Now I know that that's to some extent hyperbole as far as the opposition manager's going to sound, but I think that yeah. They had a few more chances than we did. I think they were it pains me to say the better team in the first half, but it's the age-old adage, isn't it? You know, scoring just on the cusp, just before half-time, can change the world, and it did for us. It gave us that boost, and it changed Carlos's half-time talk. It certainly changed their gaffer's half-time talk, and we were a different team coming out. But once again, though, were we a victim of playing our belligerent, boring tactic? Same old. I'm making it sound like a negative thing, but where we're slow build up once again, and then we go into a different team in the second half. For me personally, I don't feel that that way of playing is sustainable. I'd love to go into half time 2-0 up and be able to take the pressure off, but we seem to invite the pressure onto ourselves. And then if they don't score, brilliant, then we'll beat them in the second half. But can't we do that in the first 10 minutes? And then Lord H is not going to sell out a squeaky bum cream by the end of it.
I think the thing against Brentford was that, I don't think that we played terrible in the first half at all. I actually thought that we played all right. Brentford were just better.
Yeah, they were.
It was just simple as that. And I think if we'd have gone all out attack in the first half, I think that... talking to Billy before the game, he said to me, the way that you guys play suits us. We like teams that come at you. So they're exactly the same as us. So we play well as a team that attacks from the go. He says that suits them as well, because on the counter-attack, they're fast and they will rip a defence in half. So I think if we'd have gone all-out attack from the start, maybe we would have ended up 3-0 down. Yet we might have been 2-0 up, but we could well have been 3-0 down. And as it stood, it looked like we were going to go in at half-time 1-0 down, which wouldn't have been the end of the world. We got, I'll say, a bit of luck, actually. It was decent build-up play. It was a great ball through to Hooper from, was it Bannon? I can't remember. But it was a great ball through to Hooper. And, we got that little bit of luck. It was one of the messiest goals I've ever seen.
I don't understand what the defender's
head, and I was halfway down the stairway to go down to have a half-time wee before the rush, because I'd concluded it was going to be 1-0 at half-time, and that was that. I couldn't see a goal coming from anywhere for us. So I did a little dance in the gangway, which was good. Got a bit of room around me to do a little dance when
somebody's got a video of that somewhere, James.
Probably have. It was brilliant. It was one of those kind of goals that we tend not to score that much, it was a bit of a scrappy one. It was one of those that, it hits his head, comes off his arse, hits the post, off the crossbar, comes, back off a blade of grass in the right direction, and Hooper sticks it in the back of the net. Maybe not quite to that extent.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Something like that. And you're right, that did change the game, and I think for that, their heads went down after that. And for us, it allowed us to go in at half-time. It allowed... I was going to say Carlos to give the right half-time team talk, because he's not allowed because he was suspended, wasn't he? So it allowed Bully to give probably a different team talk to what he'd got planned.
I can imagine it being a bit more colourful with Bully doing it, to be fair.
Yeah, probably. I wonder whether or not Carlos wheels out Bullen to do the halftime team talk sometimes when he thinks they need a bit of a rollicking, because I can't see Carlos being that kind of manager. I think that Bullen's kind of, he's his hard man, isn't he? He's his kind of like enforcer. So he'll say before, right, Bully, you're doing it this time. You rip them to bits, and you imagine him with that strong Scottish twang. You wouldn't want to be in the receiving end of that, I don't think.
I can imagine a few people struggling to hear what he said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would have been a different team talk to what he was probably thinking it was going to be, because I think it became then a genuine kind of, right, you've been doing the right things, keep doing them, and let's just push that little bit harder in the second half. Let's take that odd little risk, and let's get that second goal. And it worked. It really worked. I think that Brentford looked a bit flatter in the second half. I think that goal probably took the stuffing out of them a bit, and they struggled to pick themselves up, and that's a problem for them. And I think as much as they have been unlucky this season so far, that's something they've got to go away and figure out how they get round, because going 1-1 at half time, you may as well be going in 0-0 at half time, and you should still be able to respond to that. And in actual fact, it was us that responded right in the second half, and them that didn't. And we got that second goal. credit, I think, for that second goal to Jordan Rhodes. I thought his header back across goal was top notch, and what looked like an attack that had broken down ended up with a goal that I thought Wallace took really well. And second half, I thought, generally speaking, it was pretty much spot on, despite the referee having some weird determination to continue playing injury time until Brentford managed to score. It was Fergie time reborn. It's Bees time now. It's Griffin time or something we're going to call it. And if that shot that came off the bar in the last minute, if that had gone in, and by the way, I don't know whether it looked like that watching it on iFollow, but in real time in the stadium, that ball took about 10 minutes to come down and land on the bar. It took forever. It just hung in the air forever. And there was time for you to turn to your mate and say, that's going to go in, isn't it? I think it's going to go in.
Do you want to be?
Are we going to stay to watch this, or should we just go now? Because everyone's going to rush out as soon as it has. Oh, it's hit the bar. Yeah. It was a stressful ending. Just a word as well. I hear that the Brentford guy that had the head injury is doing fine. I think he actually he walks out of the stadium. There were no problems there, which was good, and no one likes to see that. And fair play to the Wednesday fans for their patience. When it was absolutely throwing it down by that point. And we moved down to the front of the north stand for the last couple of minutes so we could make a quick getaway afterwards. And the rain was at that angle whereby you got absolutely piss wet through at the front of the north stand. But everyone stayed and clapped them off, which was brilliant. And you know what? I mean, it's like you said, the Forest game could be a big 3 points. I think that Brentford game is a really big 3 points, because that's a game on another day where we don't win, or that one goes in the last minute and we end up taking away a point. We said, I'll take it back right to the start of this. I said a week ago, 6 points and 2 good performances, and we got them.
I mean, we are 7 games in now of a. If you ask the Wednesday fans, it's a stuttered start, it's a mess, it's falling to bits, but it's our best start in 3 years. But do I think it should have been better? Yes. Am I concerned that Sheffield United have beat the teams that we can't seem to have beaten? Yes. But if you look at the bottom 3, Brentford have got sucked right into there. And that 7 games isn't a horrific amount of time to look at the league or just have a glance at it, don't get me wrong. But they've only got 3 points, and I think it's going to be a long season for them, given the quality that's above them. And Bolton, well, they're just going to have a nightmare of a season. But I can't move on away from Brentford now. James, that I am a fan of the silly and the ridiculous. But have you taken a look at Brentford's lineup, Brentford's players, their names? You've got Shaibu, Joseph Zoon. You've got Josh McCracken, and I see he's still alive. But my favourite is, there's 2 here. There's Chat Sitharididis, and there's one there called Bellend, whose initial is A. Bellend, which I quite enjoyed as well. I can't move away from that. That's me done. Put the adverts in.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, a wedding or anniversary, maybe you've passed your driving test, or you've landed a new job. Well, whatever your reason for a party, the Riverside Cafe is the perfect location on Catch Bar Lane overlooking Hillsborough Stadium. To inquire about hiring us for your function, call 07989 856 054 or 0114 232 6121.
We've got to cover the really important stuff about these 2 games.
Okay.
So this is, forget about all that football nonsense, right? Important stuff. There's a positive and there's a negative here.
Okay.
Positive, beer. We have beer, and boy, do we have beer. We have beer in style. We now have Thornbridge, who've actually, I believe, made a new pale ale, which is the Wednesday pale ale. There's also a session IPA called the Owls, which I've not managed to find yet anywhere at Hillsborough. I'm guessing that one's going to follow soon. And there's also another bit. It's also called the Owls, confusingly, which is a bitter, which I did have a pint of because they'd run out of the pale ale at half-time against Forest. Both very, very, very nice. Also a nice touch as well that we are rebadging these beers for every away team this season. Or we did for Forest. I don't know if we did for Brentford because, I mean, they didn't bring many with them. I'm not sure whether or not it was worth the cost. But yeah, I thought real nice touch that we called it. I think it was something like the Cluffy pale ale and the forest bitter or something. So I thought that, real nice touch. And I always think when you go to away grounds and, it's all gimmicky, isn't it? But like when you go to Brighton and they've got the signs up saying, thank you for making the, 300 odd mile trip or whatever it is, which actually last season they did at Rotherham, which kind of lost effect when it was thank you for making the 4 mile trip to
yeah, it sounds like they're taking the mickey, doesn't it? It sounds like they're taking the
bit, yeah, but they do it for every team. But I just think they're nice little touches, aren't they? To I worry sometimes whether or not we really give away fans value for the high amount of money that we expect them to pay.
Especially sitting them in the end in which we sit them.
Exactly, yeah. So just a nice little touch. So fair play to the club for that. So that's the positive.
What's the negative? In fact, just on your positive there,
all right.
Do you reckon, I mean, Vic's normally very good at this when it comes to badgering people. I've seen her having a go on Virgin Media on Twitter. I mean, it's impressive, nonetheless. Do you reckon we could get a beer and they could badge it as the Wednesday week and stick our logo on? What do you reckon? Do you reckon we could manage that? If we start a Twitter campaign now?
To do that, I tell you what, I mean, I can probably find a pub that will do it for us.
Yeah.
But whether or not the club will do it, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm not going to be greedy, right? After having to drink, I had to drink Amstel at the Sunderland game, right?
Oh, boo on you!
I know there'll be people that think that Amstel's a nice lager, and to be fair, of the lager options that are out there, Amstel's not a bad choice. But for how would you put it, a craft beer wanker such as myself?
Yeah.
It was an unpleasant experience, especially at £4 a flipping pint. So the fact that we now have a very nice pale ale, which costs less than Amstel, for the record, is brilliant. So I'm not going to be greedy. As long as they can call it whatever if they want, they can just call it like shit piss, and I'll drink it because it's not. So I'm a happy bunny on that score, But there is a negative.
Go. I'm intrigued as to negative.
I sit on row 18 of the North Stand, all right? So I'm not particularly far back on the North Stand. Right. And they've changed the font on the scoreboard, right? So it's a bit like, imagine you've gone from, your standard Arial.
Yep.
They've gone from standard Arial to Arial Narrow. Ooh. And I can't read a single word on that board.
Yeah,
so when you were telling me the name of the
Brentford players, like your hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the biggest scoreboard in the world, and they're using the smallest font that's ever been known to man. It's like it's so squashed up. So when you were talking about the names of the Brentford players, I didn't know any of them because I couldn't see them.
I bet it just looked like a car crash. Like the noise a car crash makes. I bet it just looked like that in a list, like Josh McCracken.
Absolutely. I couldn't even make out the names of our own players. I kind of guessed by the length. That one's quite short. Oh, that must be Keiran Lee. It is absolutely ridiculous. I've seen so many threads on Twitter, people on the Cop. If I can't see it on row 18 of the North Stand, what chance have people got on the Cop?
I saw Vic's mum.
People say that
that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it seems
mum's not happy.
It seems there are quite a few people that are mentioning this. So, I'm hoping that someone is taking notice of this. And, if anyone, I don't know whether or not anyone at the club bothers listening to this, crappy podcast or not. But if they do, please give us our old font back, because that was, I was even wearing my glasses and I could not see.
10 years ago, it was give us his shares back. And 10 years later, give us his font back. Give us a bloody font back. Get the Balti pies back. I love it.
It comes to something that, I could make out the old scoreboard better than I can the font on the new one. And that's with all the dead pixels that were on the
it was
old
painful,
one.
wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I'm hoping. I'm not sure whose decision that was, but someone somewhere has not thought that through because she couldn't read a word of it.
Actually,
so that's the real news from those two.
That is what people are talking about. I tell you what, actually, it's weird you saying that. Somebody at the club might be listening to this podcast. It might well be, James, because I am one of the 1,057 people that Sheffield Wednesday follow on Twitter. So essentially, what I've had to do is keep the whinging down to a minimum. Because I don't want the club reading it.
That's interesting because I'm also one of the 1,000 and whatever. Yeah.
So it's like listening to this, mate.
Of all the many and varied followers, like having Sheffield Wednesday follow me was like probably my proudest moment.
No, mine
There'll probably
was,
followers
Bewitched.
after this though now.
Definitely.
What of Bewitched? Which one? I don't know why I'm asking that because I don't know who any of them are.
There's twins in there, and one of them's got a bit of a scar across the nose. It's Adele. Can't remember her bloody name now.
Was she the double denim one?
They were all the double denim one. In fact,
denim.
Given Lee Peacock's outfit to Wembley when we went, it was I'm pretty sure he was auditioning to replace one of them.
Oh dear. Okay. Right. Anything else then on Forest or Brentford?
No,
I think we've covered everything there.
I think we've covered that. Apart from Forest getting a red version of our kit from last season, and that's all I had. I didn't even have any banter on that one. That's just a general crap observation.
I'm not sure we're in much of a position to be making comment on other clubs.
I tell you what, it's been absolutely chewing me up not being able to do these last few podcasts because it's one of the I'm a kit geek and I like my bits of the club to bring down here and show off, and you know what I mean. I've got a job now where I don't have to I can wear what I want. So if I wanted to wear a Sheffield Wednesday lanyard on my keys, or some sweatbands designed for 4-year-olds, or even what kids call them now, a snapback. You know what I mean? I could wear that, but I can't because there's none for sale. I mean, the club shop itself looks like the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan right now, and I can't, you know what I mean? There's no to buy. I don't want an £850 print. I want some tat. I want some utter shite. I mean, I went to Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League last season. They had a toaster that put the logo right on a piece of toast for you. That's the sort of shit I want to look at. Bring back Corinthian All-Stars.
It'll all follow. I wondered whether or not that you wanted to have a bit of a rant about the shirt or lack of shirt, but it was actually just a general moan about the shop.
Just general tat, just tat in general. Right, the shirt. My concern about the shirt is that they announced at the steering group at the end of January, having had all the meetings prior, so they've probably been talking about this for 3 or 4 months. They said in January, James, we are going to bring the kit in-house. Now, by then they would have already had quotes from people. Then it wasn't until May did they actually ring up and go, yes, can you please make our kits, please, Mr. Kitmaker Man? And they've gone, that was 5 months ago. I thought you'd buggered off. No, it's going to cost you this now because you need it turning around in 3 months instead of the 10 that you gave us back in January. Beggars belief. But
I think you're oversimplifying that a little bit.
I am, but that's what's
there was
happened.
A lot of dialogue in the meantime, and it was actually at the very last minute that they turned around and said it's actually going to cost double what it was.
It don't happen that way. A quote's a quote, and you either want the business or you don't. And now, the quality of the kit is poor. It looks like it's been made by Sanjay on Rotherham Market. All right, Sanj, nice to hope you're all right, doing well. So it looks like you are. But it just. I can't. Beggars belief that that's happened. And the question on the back of that I'd love to ask at the club, if there is anybody listening, have you made the decision on next season's kit yet? Because given what happened this season, you should have already had next season's ready to go.
And maybe it is, but as you say, a quote is a quote. As I say, a kit is a kit. It's all been done. It's all been said.
I suppose it has. I don't want £850 print.
When it comes out, it'll still have record sales, and everyone will forget that this whole sorry episode ever existed. Let's talk about some proper Wednesday news then, because we have a new signing. So obviously, transfer window is closed, but a free agent who I believe has been on trial with us for a few weeks, and he might even have played one of the friendly games during the summer or something along those lines.
He did. He played the training game on the Owls in the Park day.
Ah, well, there you go. So it's a Danish defender. He's called Frederik Nielsen. That's a very Danish name, isn't it?
It is,
very Danish name.
It can get
so he was, I believe, previously played for Forest, or been at Forest. I don't think he played for them. And it looks like he's going to be more kind of like a development squad or under 23s or whatever it is player, rather than knocking on the door of the first team. But it's another defender. And, just to kind of compound the theory that good defenders are like buses, because we've waited how long for one, and then we've got 3 of them in the space of a month.
Defenders for days, fam.
There we go.
I'm so down with the
So
kid.
I can't tell you anything about him. I don't know anything about him.
Hang on, I found something on Owls Talk here. So
go on then. Give us some stats. Give us some.
I've got this is a very matter of fact post from Owls Talk. This is former Nottingham Forest defender Frederick Nielsen reportedly signed for Championship rival Sheffield Wednesday. The Danish youth international was a regular at Forest in the under-23s, but left late last season, growing frustrated not being given a chance in the first team. The 19-year-old has since played for Barnsley's under-23s, spent 6 weeks on trial at Leicester City. Nielsen was on the score sheet as Leicester's under-23s faced Jersey in a 2-1 pre-season friendly in July. However, a deal did not materialise at either club. So, I don't want to be a naysayer, but he left Forest for not getting in the squad. Then he played for Barnsley under-23s, didn't get offered a contract, spent 6 weeks at Leicester and scored, but didn't get offered a contract. Nielsen played for the Wednesday under-23s in their 1-0 win at Crystal Palace on Monday, and yes, we signed him on the back of that. Any comments on the back of that? This is actually very positive for Owls Talk. Yeah, so handy for the development squad maybe. We need some younger players. Good luck to him. And then I'm interested in how long it's going to take for Neil to get up to date with the club information when he moves to Spain. And then we've just completely lost point and it's gone everywhere. So typical Owls Talk there. But the first post, kudos, well done.
It's got to be good. I think that we've got, I can't remember his name, O'Grady, who I saw play last season in one of the cup games, who looked like he could go on to do some real good stuff. Is it Conor O'Grady? I think it is. So another young defender through the door, and obviously last season's under-23s did brilliantly, didn't they? They won the development league or whatever it's called, the professional development league, is it called something like that? Really positive, and let's hope that he may well be knocking on the door of the first team in the not too distant future. The only other news that I can really come up with this week, and I've been busy, so I've not been following things, is the news that for the United game, for the derby match, the North Stand sold out. The Cop sold out. I think there's something like 12 tickets left on the South Stand, but they've now opened the Lepping Lane Lower.
West Stand Lower, I think we call it nowadays. I don't think we're allowed to call it Lepping's Lane anymore.
Are we not? Why is that because of...
Yeah, Lepping's Lane is now a swear word, so it's West Stand Lower. Nowadays.
Do we not? I still call it the Presto Stand. I'm not going to lie. That's because it says it on the roof, doesn't it? So it's no surprise.
Still,
whenever we're on TV and they do that like really good kind of behind the goal replay behind the from the back of the Cop, but then you can see the Presto Stand written on it, and you're like, oh, this is embarrassing. Oh, this is embarrassing. The Presto Lower has been made available to Wednesday supporters. Now, here's a question: if you hadn't got a ticket yet for the game, and you thought, oh, brilliant, you can sit in the West Stand Lower, but there is the risk of having bottles of piss thrown at you from the United fans sitting in the upper section above you, would you do it?
I would rather go to Bramall Lane and watch it on a beanbag than go and sit underneath that motley crew. Do you know what I mean?
I'm guessing here that what's going to happen is that, because there's only like 2,500 United fans, that they'll be like towards the back of the lower section. There'll be, like the
meshing, the netting.
Yeah, the netting. So that will be like the first 10 rows. So you'll have to have a pretty decent throw on you, and chances are there'll be a lot of security there watching, and anyone that does throw something will be very quickly removed. But that doesn't mean that you won't end up with a brick on your head. It just means whoever throws it will get chucked out pretty quickly. Don't know. I'm surprised by that. The main reason that I'm surprised, to be honest, is the fact that stand is not set up for segregation in the concourse behind it.
No, that for me is the concerning bit about it all.
So how that's going to work, I don't know. I assume they've got some kind of system whereby they can like, modern stadium obviously is flexible, isn't it? You see it whereby they at any point in the concourse they can like pull a shutter across and make the away end bigger or smaller or whatever. We haven't got shutters in the Presto Stand. We've barely got bricks in the Presto Stand. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. I think it's brave people that are going to sit there. So I wish them the best of luck with the best of luck. I think that's it for Wednesday news. I'm not sure.
I've just got one more bit. I think this was announced today, and I was interested. I'm interested to know your thoughts on it, James. Actually, Alman Abdi is injured again, not trained all week. How long are we going to put up with this? You know what I mean? At the risk of sounding negative, and I'm not trying to be negative at all, because I know that we are...
That's a really easy question to answer.
Clappers.
Because we'll put up with it for another 2.5 years, because no one's going to buy him. So he ain't going to be going anywhere.
But is it worth just cutting your losses, getting them off the wage bill, having an actual mutual consent, and going, sorry, Alman, like Manchester United did with Ibra. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that Alman Abdi is the Championship Ibrahimovic, not in the slightest. But they've gone, listen, you're a mess, son. I'm not going to pay you your wages while you're. And we were lucky, and they were lucky that Ibra was at the end of his contract. Don't get me wrong, but can we come to some kind of deal, a pay-as-you-play sort of deal? Can we review his contract? Did we put that clause in, or did we just go, no, here you are, here's a 4-year contract, son?
I wouldn't have thought so. The thing is, right now, I mean, I'll be honest, I am less than worried about this. I get the fact that, we're paying wages to a player who he hasn't had any impact at all, to be fair. And you can think of the good things that he's done and count them on one hand. There was the goal away at Forest last season, and I can think of a couple of games where he's played a couple of decent balls or something. But he hasn't been the player that we thought he was going to be. Right now, we've got a midfield that's playing well, and we've got Jacob Butterfield that's come in, and the 2 games that he's come on, I thought he's looked all right. I thought he's looked decent. And I think that he could well have a role to play. We've still got Hutch to come back, and we know that Hutch can play a role, and we've got other options as well. So I'm not overly worried about it, because I don't think that we need him. So it's frustrating that we've got a player that I find it difficult to argue against people that are saying it's just not going to happen for him. And I was one of those during the summer that said it'll be like having a new signing this season.
I would have backed you on that, but.
Yeah, I felt positive about it. It hasn't happened again, and the guy Watford saw us coming, didn't they? They knew that there was a niggling problem there. They got rid. They got £3 million out of it. Fair play to them. And
they recouped their money that we didn't pay for Forestieri. To be fair, we've had more than the money out, more than our money's worth out of him.
Yeah, absolutely fair enough, and it's a shame really, but it's difficult now to see a point whereby he's going to be fully fit. I struggle to see that anytime soon. And secondly, it's difficult to see a way that he'll force his way back into the team. Yeah,
I don't know where he's going to fit in, given what the embarrassment of riches we've got nowadays. We've got 2, I think I've got 2 players for every position now.
What time are we on? nearly 45 minutes into the podcast before our first embarrassment of riches use. Well done.
Oh right. Oh, is that a thing? Is it? Do we have like a klaxon going on?
It's that and wax lyrical you've not used yet. But,
have I not said wax lyrical?
Wax lyrical.
I love a lyrical wax. To be fair, it's a new season. I think I might need to come up with some new catchphrases. I was looking on the internet. There's a guy going scrap brap brap brap. I might steal that. See if I can get some money's worth out of that. But
that's all right.
I think that
what does that mean anything? Or
as far as my understanding, it is a chap who is a comedian. Now I mean comedian in inverted bunny rabbit ears, and what he did was essentially lampoon these what are known as roadmen. He's lampooning that by just saying absolute nonsense like 2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, that's quick maths. Now, I see what he's done, but in my head, it all sounds exactly the same as when you actually get proper grime artists on there just doing the same old crap like he does by going, man's not hot, Link's effect. I mean, it just sounds the same to me. So apparently that's funny. And what the other guys do is serious. So to me, they all sound like Clunk from Stop the Pigeon, but apparently one's different to the other.
My favourite bit of that was your use of the word lampooning.
Yeah. It's a more highbrow Dan Fudge I've been working on this summer.
I think maybe you should make that your thing. Working the word lampooning into as many sentences as
do you like that?
As possible.
Yeah.
So let's see now, because let's talk about the Cardiff game now. Let's see how many times you can work lampooning into this.
Yes.
Because I mean, generally speaking, we don't have a great record against Warnock teams.
Nope.
Obviously, we in more recent times we've had a little bit more.
Yeah, we
success
broke the hoodoo last year, didn't we?
We did indeed, yes.
Hoodoo. You see, there's some cracking words coming out today, isn't there? Hoodoo and lampoon.
I used to get confused between using hoodoo and voodoo, which are quite different, and you get those mixed up, and it can end up with you having a really bad spell put on you by a black witch. But these things happen. So Cardiff were kind of runaway leaders, weren't they? They had a great start, and it slowed down a bit now. They lost their first game, didn't they, during the week? And it's way too early to start talking about wheels coming off and stuff like that. But maybe actually, whereas a couple of weeks ago we were looking at that game thinking, not looking forward to going there. Maybe it's not a bad time to play them, where they've just had a slight kind of kind of back to reality, I guess. A bit of a waking up moment, and realise that maybe they're not going to actually piss the league like their fans seem to think that they're going to do. And the reality is that maybe they're not the world beaters that they're
utter garbage, the bloody rubbish. Hey, that's the first one of the season, isn't it? Absolute bloody rubbish. No, Preston absolutely showed them up. At the weekend. So soz Neil, but soz Colin. But you're not as good as what you think you are. What you've done is just ruin football. Do you remember you and I went into depth about it so many times last season about that, big business has won. All it's about is getting into the Premier League and making the money and staying where you are and not getting relegated. And as a result of that, negative football has crept in. Anti-football has crept in. And Neil Warnock is the absolute purveyor of it all. He was one of the ones that started it. The ones where you just go, "We're all right here. We'll just sit back here. We'll just park the bus. We'll just put a big wall up and go on, try and break us down. Go on, I dare thee. And what that's done is just ruin football. There's going to be Cardiff fans who are going, "Is this my season? Is this a season ticket I've bought to sit and watch this dross try and grind one out week in, week out? Nah, that can get in the bin." You know what I mean? And I'm glad the wheels are falling off. And I know we're only 7 games in. And I know it's far too early because they've only lost once to say that the wheels are falling off. But I genuinely hope to the bottom of my soul that the 16 points that Cardiff have got is the only bloody points they pick up all season. Mic drop.
They are lampooning a living in the Championship.
They are. They're just lampooning those middle-of-the-table teams like bloody Stoke. You know what I mean? Can you do it on a cold Tuesday night in Cardiff? Rubbish. Rubbish. Just that's all I've got to say on the matter.
Would you change anything for that game, or would you keep, or do as long as everyone's fit, would you keep the same starting 11?
If everybody's fit,
we haven't got a midweek game, have we? So
this is it. If
there is a rest,
if everybody's fit, then great. Then why change it? Like you said, there's going to be some pretty difficult justification to all of a sudden let's drop Van Aken, for example. It'd be nonsensical, and there would be some big questions asked, unless Carlos has got some answers to those questions. Let's say Dom Howson sits down in front of him and says, "Carlos, you have made 3 changes since the last game, and then put it on this one." That's not how Dom speaks, but in my head, that's how he does.
It became a Geordie somewhere.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's like, "Hey, Carlos, what are you saying, mate, pet? Have you had a little fish already?" You know what I mean? And he's gone, "Well, actually, Dom, what I did, I've changed that because they've got this player who does this, and they play this formation, and I thought we could break them down that way. Hence, us coming away with a 1-0 win, which is what I think it's going to be."
Can you see a scenario whereby Carlos might play, and this is a popular formation in the Premier League, he might play David Jones and Hutchinson together as 2 deeper midfielders?
He might do, but I don't think Cardiff is the team to play that. If he did that at Sheffield United, that'd be a hell of a roll of the dice, because it's something that we've not tried before in the local derby, which is some pretty balls on the fire, you know what I mean, tactical awareness. But to do it against Cardiff, to play 2 defensive midfielders, would just be a waste of everybody's time going there, turning up, and, watching football in general.
Fair enough. Thought I'd ask,
Yeah, no, not for me.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the same in terms of the fact that I think that there's little reason to change things unless we have to. I know that we were expected to make 2 or 3 changes, weren't we, for the Brentford game, because there were players that had picked up knocks. So whether if Fletcher's not 100% fit, is that chance that he might not play and that Rhodes comes in, which would be disappointing because, like you said, the combination of Fletcher and Hooper is working brilliantly. But if there are enforced changes, then fair enough. I wonder whether or not we might play the same team, but formation wise just be a little bit different, and maybe not play that diamond and play a bit of a flatter 4 across the middle, which I'm not sure necessarily suits us, but it might help us keep things quite tight. And then, as and when we need to, we know that formation can change slightly and adapt slightly, and we can, play a more attacking game when we get the opportunity to do so. I've got to make a confession here, because, and it's been a while since this has happened, but I'm not going to the game. I'm not going to Cardiff. Because I'm on holiday. I'm flying tomorrow to Germany. So I'm away for the weekend. So I won't be at the Cardiff game. So I'll be able to offer absolutely zero insight into the game next week, which I accept is probably not much different to what I'd be able to offer if I was at the game anyway. So
you know what I mean? At the risk of sounding you're not missing much, it's a Neil Warnock against the Sheffield Wednesday. You're not going to be missing much. Now, where in Germany are you off to?
I'm going to Hamburg.
Now, Hamburg is a port town, isn't it? There are some hot women there.
Yes.
And is it not where they were rioting a couple of months ago?
Yes, I was there that weekend, actually. True story. During the G20 rioting, I got there on the Sunday of that weekend. So it's I'm actually there. I'm going to see a team called St. Pauli while I'm there, who are quite well. They're in the second tier of German football, but very well known. They actually have they sell the 4th highest amount of merchandise in Germany, behind the obvious 2, Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, and Wolfsburg are 3rd, and then St. Pauli 4th in the merchandise.
Don't start me on selling merchandise. I think it's the cornerstone. I bet they've got a shop at the ground, and I bet they've got a shop in town as well. But
do you know what? I bet they have.
I know Dortmund have got one.
They might even do things like have people that sell stuff outside the ground and everything.
Yeah.
I'll give you a full report on their merchandising.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a tat report if I'm honest, James. I'm gonna need that.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'm meeting up with a group of guys from Glasgow who I've never met or even spoke to before, to go to the game with. So I would recommend, if you're stuck for something to do on your way to the game, because I think it's a 12 o'clock kickoff over there. Yeah. So if you're stuck for something to do on your way to the game, or while you're at home waiting for it to come on the radio or whatever on Saturday, then I would imagine that my Twitter's probably going to be relatively amusing, because I'm also going to ask the guys from Glasgow to teach me some proper Glasgow sayings, which I'll try and do some videos of and stick them on Twitter.
Are these Glaswegians that live out in Hamburg?
No. They live in Glasgow. I think there's 12 of them that are flying out tomorrow, as am I, for the game. So they go over for like a few each season. Just got chatting on Twitter, and I know nothing about them whatsoever. But yeah, going to the game with them, and then going to a handball game with them afterwards, which I've never seen the
episode of the IT Crowd where they learn a couple of choice phrases about football, and then the next scene they're sat in the crowd going, "I don't know what's happening." You know what I mean? That's going to be you at the handball, because I have no idea what's going on there. It just looks ridiculous.
My vision is a bit like were you a fan of Father Ted?
Yes.
All right, so the episode of Father Ted where they're doing like the retired priest's football game, Mrs. Doyle reads the book about football and suddenly becomes interested. And her friend says to her, "What on earth are you doing at football?" "Oh, read this." And she reads the book. And the next thing, there's like 200 old women all singing songs in the crowd, even though they have no idea what's going on. That's. I could see me being one of them. So never been to a handball game in my life. Know nothing about it. Don't know the rules or anything. So I'm doing that as well. And then whatever else happens, what happens in Hamburg stays in Hamburg.
Wow. Wow.
So that's my weekend. So what I'm going to do, here's my plan, right? Here's my plan. I'm not going to follow the Wednesday game on Twitter or anything.
Right.
I'm going to follow the score, but I'm not going to follow like the commentary.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, from the final score, I'll come on the podcast next week and see whether or not I can guess how the game unfolded from knowing the way that Neil Warnock teams play and knowing the scoreline, and see whether or not I can correctly guess how the game unfolded.
Okay.
So that's my plan. That's my thought.
Okay. It sounds like a fun game. I think we can do that. I think we can do that between us. I think if we get a few choice phrases out of you, like, was it, get scenario 1 or scenario 2. Oh, listen, in other Wednesday news as well, as you may have seen on Twitter, Lee Peacock's left me.
Yeah, he's got a new job, hasn't he?
I was sworn to secrecy. To be fair, he did text me because I've got him on a group chat that, that's got a lot of green on one side and then yellow on the other, white on the other on WhatsApp. But yeah, he's left me. And what it was, I'd gone to Birmingham for the T20 cricket finals. I don't know if you've ever been to something like this, and that is a long day on the beer, James. That is 10 in the morning till late. And I was chuffed I was still standing by the end of it. And I remember getting home. I'd not soiled myself or anything.
Well, no.
Lee Peacock left me, and I'd been through 2 hangovers already because I've been drinking that long. But listen, Lee, good luck in your new role at Swindon as head of the academy, and hope it goes all right for you. And hope one day we'll see you at the Wednesday.
Yeah, good luck to Lee. That's really good news and a real good move for him. I'm really
I
really
mean, it's he's gone from Eastleigh, and I think he's Swindon or what, League One?
Well, they were, weren't they? I think they got relegated.
Well, he shot up a level anyway, so he's one louder.
Swindon, I think, managed to reach like the football headlines for not necessarily because they got relegated, by the fact that their official website didn't actually acknowledge that they got relegated in their full-time match report. They just talked about the fact that they'd lost before they actually acknowledged the fact that they'd actually been relegated to League Two. But great stuff for him. I've got one little bit to mention, which is I have to say hello to the and you'll be surprised that this exists, to the Dubai Owls.
Dubai Owls.
So over in Dubai, there are a group of Wednesday fans that get together to watch all the games. I know this because my uncle lives out there, and he's, technologically not particularly advanced. So he was moaning about the fact that he never gets to follow the games or anything. So I went on Facebook and I found this group called the Dubai Owls. So I put him in touch with them, and he's now like really good mates with them and goes and watches all the games with them. And I believe that they are listeners to the podcast. So want to say hello to all the fans that get together in Icons. I believe it's Icons Bar to watch and follow the Wednesday game. And just to add as well, any Wednesdayites who are based out in Dubai or maybe Abu Dhabi, anywhere where you can kind of travel not too far away, or even if you're off on holidays over there, if you go on Facebook, search Dubai Owls, look them up, give them a shout, see whether or not if they're getting together to watch the game, then you could head on over and see it with them. So a big hello to them. And that is it. I've got no other bits this week. I've got nothing particularly exciting.
Well, to be fair, there's no to whinge about when we're winning, is there? You know what I mean? I remember thinking, I wish I'd have been on here 2 or 3 weeks ago. But that at least we can't be accused of being a sing when you're winning podcast with having just a 2 turnout on the weeks where we're winning, eh?
No, that's true. That's also a different matter, but very true. So I think that just about does us for this week. Do you want to give your Twitter a plug?
Yeah, I'm going to give my Twitter a plug. If you are based in Dubai, let me know if you've come across those women that I know exist, the ones that live in Dubai and pay 40 quid for a glass of wine and just live out there because they can say, I live in Dubai. If you are there, let me know if you've come across them. Have they got like a name? Do you call them like yummy mummies or something? You know what I mean? I'd love to know that. Give me a shout at Dan Fudge on Twitter.
Very good. And if you want to get hold of me, you can get me at James Marriott. And the podcast, we're on Twitter at TWWcast. You probably follow us already, but you might not have had a gander at the website, thewednesdayweek.co.uk. There'll be some more blogging action going on there. In fact, I might do a blog from my German football experience.
Yeah, it's going to blog away. In fact, you're going to be the cheerleader, because I quite like the way the Europeans do this. They have a guy at the front, don't they, that doesn't watch any football, that literally just starts the chanting. Yeah. Is that going to be you?
Well, they do have that, and I am in. So they have like like their proper ultra section behind the goal, and through one thing or another, I've got a ticket in the standing bit behind the goal with all the ultras. So I might maybe I will get roped into that. My German's not great. I've got to be honest.
Well, yeah, just start shouting Wednesday chants. I'm pretty sure they'll know the tune.
I could do Wednesday chants, or I could start a chant that just says "thank you" in German, because that's pretty much the only word that I know. But we will see what happens. We will see what happens, and I'll report back next week. Well, it's been a pleasure to have your company tonight.
Yeah,
Fudge,
I am the Scarlet Pimpernel at times. I appreciate that, and I am lovely company. So you're welcome.
Very good. We'll no doubt see you again in about 2 months' time or something like that.
when they let me go again on day release.
Brilliant. All right. Well, we'll speak to you again next week.
Real soon.
Oh, I don't know what I did there. That didn't work. Hang on. Let me try that again.
Got to leave that bit in.
There's a chance here. A great save. A turner from McLear. Might come. A terrific goal by Keiran.
Brentford against Joost. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving.
I can't use that now, can I? Because it's got you saying you've got to leave that bit in.